Hello and welcome to Business Lunch. I'm Nisha Podar, and with me as always is my co-anchor Pavitra Parekh. And let's begin with the markets then and look at the markets. And yes, it started on a weak note today in the red, about 0.3% down at the moment after a fairly volatile session in a tight range. Now it is again down more than 0.2% in trade. So at the moment, Nifty 50 hovering around 17,540 levels. It did open above 17,500 levels and at least is maintaining that. But it has been a choppy ride and there is a little tentativeness in terms of the direction of the market. Bank Nifty, that is on the flat line, outperforming the key indices at the moment, and mid-cap index too in the flat line and outperforming. Advance decline ratio in favor of the advances, and that's a positive coming in. But as we speak, the market is trying to really ramp up and lift the sentiment again and see some bit of recovery inching towards a green zone. On my screens right now, a bunch of stocks still holding up in the green, and some of the financials like IndusInd Bank as well as ICICI Bank, HDFC, Kotak, SBI Life, these are performing well in trade. ONGC, because of the crude dynamics, and Apollo Hospital are some of those counters still in the green at the moment. Pavitra.
Oh, absolutely. It's just been all over the place, right, since the morning. I mean, we saw that, at least we saw that open above the 17,500 mark, which has been a key support level. But in the past few minutes, it is Reliance which has slipped into the red and will account for a bunch of the pain that's come through in just the past 10 minutes. So keep that stock on your radar. Of course, we saw that big crude move overnight, 4% higher on oil prices. So you have ONGC, Oil India, which are holding up, in addition to the financials, of course, that Nisha mentioned. On the downside, it is the FMCG stocks which are seeing cuts today. So something like a Nestle, Britannia, Tata Consumer, most of them are seeing some cuts. You also have the bigger IT names which are under pressure, and then the entire Adani group of stocks. So those ones will come up for you: Adani, Wilmar, Green. These are just some more. And remember, the FNO expiry is tomorrow. Jackson Hole starts tomorrow. So, you know, ahead of that, this tentativeness is perhaps expected. But with that, let's move on and talk about the big news of the day. The Adani group has indirectly acquired more than 29% stake in news broadcaster NDTV. The Adani group's unit has also announced an open offer. This is for an additional 26% stake in the company at 294 rupees per share. Now, this open offer will cost Adani around 493 crore rupees. Yash is standing by to take us through all of the deals and how all of the details on this and how the deal exactly is structured. Yash.
Well, that's correct, Pavitra. So I'll start by quickly talking about the shareholding pattern at NDTV itself. Promoters Pranoy Roy and Radhika Roy, they together hold a little over 32% in NDTV. Another promoter entity, that is RRPR, that entity held 29% stake in NDTV. Now, it's this 29% stake which belonged to RRPR, which has been acquired by this entity called Vishwa Pradhan Commercial, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Adani Group. Interestingly, the announcement to acquire Vishwa Pradhan Commercial also came minutes before the announcement was made on acquiring RRPR stake in NDTV. But as far as the deal structure is concerned, Vishwa Pradhan Commercial has converted warrants which were issued to RRPR in the form of taking over entire RRPR stake in NDTV, which is 29%. And then, since Vishwa Pradhan Commercial is an entity of Adani, that indirect holding of 29% in NDTV goes straight away to Adani to have the deal in sort of their favor. As far as what's next is concerned, since this particular transaction involved a stake of more than 25%, having voting rights of more than 25%, it triggered an open offer which will be for another 26% stake in NDTV at a price of 294 rupees a share, which is about 25% discount to the current market price of NDTV. What's in store for the Roys? As far as their options are concerned, there are essentially three things that can be done. One is, if they feel that this entire transaction is a hostile takeover, they can go ahead and challenge this before the court. Second thing, they can tender in their shares as far as that open offer is concerned and exit NDTV. And the third one, they can co-promote NDTV with the Adani Group.
That's right, Yash. And how often do we get like a media house and probably a news agency being in an M&A transaction? But in terms of the big shareholders, you did mention that, and there has been one conflict in terms of the consent not being taken from the Roys, which they had put out in the statement. So the big question will be, once this open offer is triggered, who will tender in? Do you have any insights on that? And who are these big shareholders who are going to define the success of this open offer?
Well, Nisha, so just to answer your question, and as a disclaimer, this is not a definite answer to the question, but a general reading of the shareholding pattern, which itself is very interesting. If you look at the shareholding pattern, there are three sets of shareholders, namely Drolia Agencies, GRD Securities, and Adesh Broking. These three shareholders together have 6% stake in NDTV. But interestingly, all these three shareholders have interlinked directors, which means there are common directors when it comes to these three entities. Now, a general reading or an indication would be that if one of these three entities decides to participate in the open offer, then most likely the other two entities would also participate in the same open offer. I'm not saying that this has to pan out that way, but that's an assumption as far as one can make from the shareholding pattern. That's one interesting part. The second one is about another investment, namely Lts Investment, which owns a sizable chunk, that is 9.75% stake in NDTV. Now, interestingly, Lts Investment also holds stake in various Adani Group companies. It holds about 1.7% stake in Adani Enterprise, about 1.1% stake in Adani Power, 1.6% in Adani Transmission, 1.3% in Adani Total. Now, it's the understanding is that since they have such large shareholding in various Adani Group companies also, it is possible that they could participate in that open offer of NDTV. If that happens, then in totality, Adani's stake through these two entities itself, these two sets of shareholders, would straight away go to about 45%.
All right, Yash, thanks a lot for taking